All right. I want to say welcome to Michael Andre Hart, aka Bubba Mikey here. I Never Knew TV Fire. What's going on?
Give thanks, as
Seriously.
usual. Give thanks to life, give thanks to the energy, the universe, give thanks to Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Father Time, and give thanks to the union of our mother and father that bring I forward into aeration. So you just give thanks.
Serious thing, fire. So as a farmer now, right? Though, as a farmer, right? What have you learned being in nature in regards to discipline and habits?
To control your mind, your spirit, your soul, and body. It's like a fire pyramid. Heat, air, and oxygen. So if you remove one, you're out the fire. So all three works together. Your mind, soul, and body. You know, spirit is also a part of it. And that's where the discipline is all about. And as I say, everything really lies within your mind. Everything rests within you. Everything comes from within you. There is nothing that comes from out to in rather than the meal that you put in. Everything generates from within. So if you have a healthy thinking, you have a healthy and disciplined mind with high principles behind it, everything is great. And farming is one thing that really teach you that high level of principle. Interacting with the soil, see the wonders of the soil. You put a slip in, but you harvest some food staple at the end. You put 1 grain in, but you harvest 100 of grains from that 1 grain. There's so much things with the soil that instill discipline. Farming is one of the most integral aspects of my man journey. Come as very early, my grandma teach me, watch this, you gotta plant a can. You plant a can and you get 2 cans. You're talking about 100 of different grains. So I learned from very early within my consciousness that's one of the highest science. Farming. She teach me how to plant the slips of the potatoes. She teach me how to beat the heads of the cocoa. She teach me everything where farming is concerned, and she teach me how to prepare meals. As I say, the whole situation that them know as poverty and poor, it elevate and motivate a whole heap of different principle in terms of how you go about preparing a meal. I learn how to do pudding, the different pudding. I learn how to harvest the can, let them dry, scald these cans and they get a grate and you make your own flour. I learn how to, use the cassava to make flour. I learn how to, plant up the cane and use the cane and to make your own sweetness. Rather than getting a pound of processed sugar from the shop, you get the carver thing from a tree post and you make it into a particular way and you squeeze your cane and you get the cane liquor. And you use the cane liquor for your sweetening. It teach me how to use your dry coconuts and you make your own oil. And when you make that oil, she teach me how to get 3 corn grains, drop in the back, and it preserve that oil. It teach, there's so much things that you learn, growing with your grandma. She teach you how to do a lot of different cuisine from a poverty perspective, but it wasn't poverty, as I say. With a mature mind now, you're seeing where it wasn't poverty. It was basic means of survival and self-reliant.
Yeah, in 1987, the DEA had a significant presence in Jamaica, right? Working alongside the JDF to eradicate ganja cultivation. Why do you think America was so adamant about destroying urban Jamaica? And what are some of the brutal tactics you witnessed during that time?
Great. I would say the experience was great in those times, but it was traumatized at that age. I was 11 year of age, 1987. And what was happening in Westmoreland at the time, it was like a ganja revolution. The whole entire Westmoreland parish was under weed because there was a demand for it in overseas, like, probably Canada and America. The Jamaica weed was dominantly, running the marketing within these international waters. When we really dig deep and do a lot of interaction to find out what caused all of that, it was known that probably at that time 50 million or so might leave the United States to go and purchase cannabis in Jamaica. And then they sit and they might do some assessment, and it was a form of money laundering at the time. So they think of means and ways how to really curtail that. And one of the things they came up with is to set up a ganja eradication program at the time, narcotics, by the narcotics division. And they provide resources as well. So in 1987, I witnessed 2 helicopters from the United States alongside with military personnel to oversight the job or to supervise the job, and one helicopter from the Jamaica Defense Force. So it was 3 helicopters at the time in each community in Westmoreland, community by community. It was the most devastating sight I ever see, in the community. And, it disintegrate the weed perspective in a big way. And from them time, it was always eradication. It was always stigmatized. It was always criminalized. It was, it does create a whole heap of pressure from them time, until, recently we see them legalize, and it legalized on a level where the indigenous people are the people who are responsible for keep that fire burning or to keep it alive and awaken. I don't see where they are benefiting that much, but 1987 and 1988 was the 2 devastating year. I was 11-year-old at the 87 operation and 12-year-old at the 88 operation, and it was devastating. It took me like 6 months to see a bird in my community after 1987 when the whole eradication program started. At that time, it was really a traumatized experience, and it was also a awakeness within me as a little youth, because in them time, a lot of the elders are alive who used to participate in that activity right now. Some is still in the community, some migrate to different states all over, and and some you might find 1 and 2 of them deceased, because I can think of a couple of them that deceased. But I was a little youth, and I always admire and look at the way how they get things done. At that time, it was Jamaica sensimina. It wasn't hybrid, it wasn't indica, and it wasn't Alaska. It was like a Jamaican sensimina. Them would call it common herb. So it was dealt with in a different way,
It take like 9 months to grow.
Yeah, you plant from March or April, and you wouldn't harvest until September. So it stay in the soil for a long while. So that so that tell you why the Jamaica was so dominant in terms of the market space in the international water, because it's not that Jamaica could grow it alone, it's a quality. The quality was coming from Jamaica, the original quality, the Jamaican sensimina. And we all know that within this modern age, we know that there is no 100% sativa here, and there is no 100% indica, because we know sativa is from within Central America region. You're talking about Jamaica, Colombia, Mexico, and other Caribbean islands. And then, indica is from the east, which is the Asia continent, the Hindu Valley, North China, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan, and all these places. And that's where the culture of hashi really come from, because it was very humid, and it was the information show it was in the 17th centuries where they start to put the names to the land race. It was given names. So all of these things were created. We don't even know if that's the real name, but we know these names came about and then just give name. But Jamaica play a very integral role in the movements of cannabis.
I wanted to ask, like, how did the eradication impact the economy of your community? Because I take it everybody up there was growing herb for the most part. So if they burned down the herb, what were people doing to survive?
They have to go back to farming. And when them go back to farming, it's just hand to mouth. Because, this is how farming really work in Jamaica. At that time, there was no mechanism put in place to secure marketing for farmer. So farmers got to navigate and study when to plant what, how to plant what, and why to plant what. So that navigation, not everyone could navigate. Only the good navigator would really make a money in the market. Some person would have the tomato, but when he or she have the tomato, there's a glut. There's no sale. Well, other person know to navigate and know, especially which season to plant the tomato to catch a price. So farming is very technical. It comes with a whole heap of insight. It comes with a whole heap of critical thinking, and you have to be very precise and accurate in terms of how you go about it in order to survive. So everyone have to go back to farming, but not someone where I know, where I come learn from them footstep and take it, because I got my first cannabis field very early.
So They went deeper in the hills.
Yes. And deeper in the hills, it requires more resources to fight it, and it get more brutal, and the punishment becomes harsher. So, and it was really stigmatized at the time. For example, me personal is a youth where you have some persons within the community don't want them youth run high. Because I was seen as a bad influence. Because I start blaze the big spiff them from early. Yeah. And it was really relevant within my time and within my situation and my aspect and my journey, because smoking from so early, it do a lot for I. Because this is how cannabis really work for me from my own experience. Everyone relates to cannabis in a different way because everyone's body reacts differently when you consume, you know. And my experience is, at that age, all I want to do is just to take my grandma out of poverty, because she gets a lot of disrespect sometimes from those who have within the community because she cannot afford. And it's sad to say, but my first recognition of injustice was in the church. Because growing up with my grandma, I have to go church, I have to go Sunday school. And when I go church, and there was something that I identify within the church. I'm not bashing the church and I'm not criticizing the church, but as a youth, I was conscious within myself really identify things which I see was, not so fear for me, but couldn't do nothing about it. More just meds span it, and the consciousness start right there. The persons within the church who is not seen as wealthy people, because in Jamaica at the time we identify you have first, second, and third class citizenship. And then, the people in poverty would have fallen at the third class range. So they would have a different section of them assemble versus middle class. Versus,
In the church?
Yeah, of course. And versus, it's there. And, people might deny it or hear me say that no, but I could see it. The way how everyone was dealt with, the first class person now them not get deal with like the second class. And the second class person not get deal with like the third class. You know what I say? The first class always, for them priority always first. Second class. So, it's kind of sad, but it was there. And as a youth, I identified that in the church. It made me meds deep, because at that time, as a youth, I start out studied Bible first. Because my granny did stern. You have to read. Only one thing she couldn't stern for me with, when I identified that I really not like church no more. So she couldn't instill in me to really continue to go to church. So I broke away from that early, man. And I get a whole heap of criticism for do that. As it's like you're a bad youth in the community. You're not doing anything wrong, but you rebel against going to church and all of that. But them could identify the goodness within I, because the goodness within I is just want to be careful, to be in the position to care for my grandma, to take her out of a certain situation. And cannabis is the liberator, or weed or ganja is the liberator. So I get exposed to weed from very early. Every single thing I earn, everything that take care of all the necessities where other person's responsibility is concerned are my responsibility and my grandma's responsibility, because I man share a lot. In my community, I never have a tight hand. Anything I have, I share. I always share, because as a youth growing up and really learning from the elder Rastafaris or the senior Rastafaris, the only thing them tell us is peace and love. That's all I hear them say. And yet when you really look and examine, they were the ones that were victimized, brutalized. They were handled so barbarically, especially if them have a little jar within them position. And it always creates an awareness within I why, these people are peacemaker, and why it's like police definitely just couldn't bear see a Rasta man at them time. So just imagine the kind of scenario it create for me if you really come take on to this journey or take on to this trad. But I love it.
Can you share the history of herb cultivation in Jamaica, starting in St. Ann and later moving to Westmoreland, and explain why the location of Westmoreland contributed to the potency of the herb grown there?
Yeah. So we all know the history of cannabis arriving in Jamaica. We know it was in the north first. which is St. Anne's. All of the elders and seniors them tell I of it because I'm was much smaller at the time. And then further on it moved to the west. So if you look at the geographical location of Jamaica, you know, it don't need a rocket science to really understand the power points. The sun rises in the east and it set it in the west. So when the sun rises in the east and set in the west, when the east becomes dark, the west is still a bit light, you know? And the more sun is the more potency you get from the plant, you know? So after shifting from St. Anne's and go to the western side of Jamaica, everyone realized this is the geographical location that the plant adapts to in a better way in terms of showing its true potential or bringing out its true potential. And then the man them just capitalize on it. And it just revolutionize the whole Westmoreland until this present hour. The nicest herb growing at Westmoreland, and no one can go around that.
You know, the best job I got was from Orange Hill.
100% sure. And their Orange Hill is one of the places that is always at a higher level of cultivating cannabis from long time.
Because of the rocks or something up there?
You know, I never dive deep into it rather than know that geographical location is the sunset. And because it's the sunset, it accommodate or facilitate the quality it facilitate. So your geographical location really matters. For example, let's do some comparison. It's the same thing right now. We have 38 states will legalize weed in the United States of America and 12 not. And they call me the master grower in New York, you know, but I don't accept it. And the reason why I don't accept it, I'm going to find myself in one geographical location, which is in the state of New York. And that one geographical location is within the Hudson Valley of New York. So I'm not up north and I'm not down south. However, for me, it's a bit too early to declare, but I think the Hudson Valley is the most sweetest spot for cannabis within New York. And this is how it works for me, because everywhere I go and for do farming, the first thing I do, I have to navigate. Two things: you understand your geographical location and how it operates, and in some way you try to understand the weather pattern. It's not easy to understand the weather pattern here, you know, in America, because it fluctuates so frequently. Yeah. And the same weather pattern you get this year, you will never get it next year. And where outdoor grow is concerned in America, is the weather pattern really decide your fate. So you know, as a carer, a guider, and a protector, you got to learn how to stay on top of your game and precise and accurate. How do you make preparation with the weather pattern as it changes and evolves along? Meaning, you understand the planting cycle and you understand the vegetation cycle. So you know when you plant, if you get a storm or a downpour or rain during planting, and when you catch off and reach certain stage, you're not worrying. But how do you prepare when you go into vegetation? How do you protect them plant? So that's why you think about how you fence. You know? So that's how it evolves, you know. It really evolves. As the seasons move along, you have critical thinking, how you create and establish means of protecting the plant. So you always like 10 steps ahead the game. You got to stay a little ahead of the weather pattern. You know when it touch July, you're in the hurricane season, so anything is possible. How do you prepare yourself going over to the hurricane season to protect your plants from an outdoor perspective? You know, so the weather pattern really have a lot to do with in terms of, you know, how you make the decisions. Yeah, in Jamaica, I love Jamaica because you can plant it 12 months of the year.
When did herb transfer from taking 9 months to grow to like 2-3 months now?
All right, good question. Because I'm still a student. You know, cause as I can see, I'm just a great-great-grandchild of a Rastafari community who, you know, that journey shape and structure my life. That transition really take place. I can't really pinpoint the time, but I know it take place in the later movements. Because if it go back to the historical fact of cannabis and when cannabis was discovered, when cannabis discovered, you know, when it discovered land waste nights in its original habitation, it was indica, as we say, in the east and sativa in the central. You know, and we know Africa, we know the whole pattern of Africa sativa in Africa, same way. However, if you check it, it was really, when them find the plant in America, it was really hemp, It was really a holistic medicinal, And it wasn't that much sacramental. It was hemp. So industrial hemp play a very vital role in America economy after World War II. So in order to make cannabis reach here, watch this. There's a birth of hybrid. So sativa was used and indica was used, and you create hybrid. So hybrid prepare or hybrid accommodate the growing of cannabis within the American continent. So hybrid really birth. Until in Jamaica you start hear about hybrid. Now you say, what that? Cause in Jamaica you used to your 5 month and your 6 month. And then you hear about hybrid, and when hybrid come, hybrid take 4 months. One of the first hybrid we encounter with was, them have a strain, them just call it random indica. And then them have a hybrid strain come named Alaska. The Alaska was booming, man. It boomed the place. And then further, you have hybrids come that, create wonders. You have like the hazel skunk, the purple skunk, the AK-47, the most wanted. And, as a hybrid gradually come, and right now, you barely can find land race. There's people who have it, but land race is not pretty much not on a high like back then.
All right. You spoke about outdoor earlier, right? I want to delve deeper into that. So, there's an ongoing debate about whether indoor or outdoor cultivation is better, right? Can you clarify this and explain how herbs adapt to their environment?
All right. The whole controversy between outdoor and indoor is just a waste of time. Outdoor and indoor is just two different growing principles and two different growing practices. So you will never get the same result where you get from doing indoor with outdoor. And because it's two different growing principles, this is how it worked for me from my personal experience. I've never worked in an indoor facility to grow weed because I don't like it, And not because I don't like it, I'm not bashing it. Indoor is here to stay. You always going to be a part of the industry, and it always going here to stay. Because there's people who support it, and that's the flower, or that's the grow that a lot of people have appetite for. And I'm going to break it down to the lowest common multiple from my perspective, Other persons might see me in a different way, but this is how it works. When scientists start to study this plant, they didn't study it in the wild, Even if them do some study in the wild. Remember, when you go in the wild and you find a herb, you want to know more about the herb. So what you do, you carry the herb and you carry it inside. Because you want to capture every second, every minute, every hour, and every day, the different changes. And because of all of that, and we have that closer insight now, there was new discovery. And one of the new discovery is that them realize that this plant can be manipulated because it have the ability to adapt to any conditions. Like a living being, like a human being. For example, I can born in Alaska, but that don't stop me from living in Asia. I just know when I go to Asia, I wear less clothes. And when I go back to Alaska, I wear more clothes. So that's how the weed work. Saying so, the same endocannabinoid system that is made up of the human body, when them study the plant, no me say so. Scientists and all who research and study say so and provide it to us in written document. It's the same makeup within the human body. What that I tell you? There's a direct connection between living being and this plant. So the plant have the ability to adapt. So the whole controversy between indoor and outdoor is just nonsense. For me, a nonsense. Because watch this, if it's two growing principle, different growing principle, you're not going to get the same result. Inside, you manipulate the plant. Outside, you can't. However, the two growing practice, anyone that master that craft have to be very precise, accurate. And they have to be very expert in doing that art. It's an art. So you got to be an expert in doing that art, whether from an inside or whether from an outside. I just choose outside because inside is manipulation, meaning you keep the plant in a building and you commercialize everything. A fan for the wind circulation, lights to imitate the sun, everything you do. but it gives you power over the plant to control the plant. So you can push the plant wherever you want to push it. That's the manipulation. And that's where it becomes a bit dangerous, because the inside you're polluting the environment. You're creating mess because you're helping to destroy the ozone layer. That is one. Two, you're giving consumer only what you desire to grow. Remember, there's 200 properties. However, where the marketing of cannabis is concerned, they emphasize or they place marketing around THC. So for a lot of consumers, the higher the THC is the better the plant, is the better the flower. For me, it's not so. It's not true. So the inside give everyone that go inside the ability or the capability to push his THC to 40%, 50%, or to whoever they want to do it.
How do they do that?
This is how it works. There's natural biology that can be applied to cannabis in terms of growing perspective. And if those biologies are not used in the right context or in the right way, what do you think will happen? So there's biology that only focus on pushing THC, what you feed through irrigation. So they use biology that is only focusing on how to boost THC. So what those biology is doing is don't press all the rest of potency to increases. They only want to extrapolate THC because THC is what's selling. That's the dominant. That's what make the market. That's what make you dominant in the market space.
Oh, so based on what you feed the soil, that would feed the component in the herb.
Yeah, because you gotta feed. So those biologies, it can pushes whatever you wants to push. What you want to extrapolate from the plant, that's what you want to emphasize on. That's what you want to push. And this is how it works for me now.
So if it's grown outside though, could you have that extreme difference in the THC CBD? Can you also replicate that, or you only could do that inside?
It's not 100% possible to do it from an outdoor
There's too
perspective.
much variables affecting the growing process.
When you're going outside, you becomes one with nature.
Yeah, you gotta work with. Yeah,
So I can't manipulate the plant. I can only be a guider, a carer, and a protector. Meaning the plant gets the ability to do whatsoever it wants to do. So guess what now? When it's outside, I got to learn, I got to navigate, I got to be connected with the plant. I know, this plant need to be pruned for ventilation, for airflow. And these limbs need to be moved because these limbs is not going to produce the quality I want. So you give all the limbs that have the ability to produce the quality you require. So you remove anything that doesn't have that ability. So that's the cure. You can't, so you get balance.
Sound like life.
Yeah, you create in the growing, you create balance. And I like that balance because I don't see myself growing THC. I see myself growing a plant, which that plant is medicinal. So when I'm out there growing, I'm growing medicine. So the THC might be 21% versus the indoor 35, 40. But guess what? You get a more balanced high. Because the 40%, you smoke a 40%. I'm going to work it out for you, in every way, from a business perspective and from a health perspective. So the 40% THC, when you smoke a 40% THC, what's the reaction behind that? It gets you so cloudy. You go to sit in a couch and you drop asleep. For the little young teenage youth, them sit right there and them eat out of them plate and them leave it same place. It give them this cloudiness where for the whole day, it's like them they dead. But them like it because it high. How that work? Now this is my question to a lot of people, If you have a company and you have 100 workers and you allow them to smoke cannabis, you want your 100 worker come in with a bang up high like that, how will they execute quality work ethics? Versus an outdoor which is 19%, 20% or 21%. And that you would smoke a giant and it does keep him so active. He does want to execute. because
Focus.
it's a balance high. It's 200 property. So the THC is not overriding. And moreover, THC without CBD is useless because CBD hold THC in line. If you smoke a whole heap of THC and get high, the fastest way if you really get back that balance is to just get some hemp flower and smoke some CBD, and it just pulls you back in line. That goes for sure. All the properties work together, and all the properties need to work together in order to give the body the benefit it needs from a sacramental perspective, you know, and also a medicinal perspective as well, as a person who have experience in that field. So there's different levels, because you really do from a seed to a sale. So, you got to choose your genetics well, because some genetics were created only to grow inside, not outside. So that's something where you got to have up your sleeve, because the whole outdoor growing perspective, if you get it wrong from the beginning, that wrong follow you all the way to the end. So you'll never get the quality that you want at the end. So you got to choose your genetics well. And you choose genetics that can adapt to an outdoor condition. It can withstand certain variables, and there's a lot of things out there that it can withstand. It adapts to an outdoor, the fluctuating weather pattern and all of that. So that's one of the key points in terms of going outdoor. You got to understand your genetics, and you got to choose genetics from cultivar who is very honest. Cultivar who not going to sell the genetics and say, oh yeah, it's gonna do good outside, and when it don't, yeah. So you got to get it from reliable sources, persons who is well experienced in terms of doing this from a long time and understand the different cycles and the pattern and all of that. Apart from that, when you get the genetics, there's a lot of navigation that has to be done. You got to choose your geographical location very well. And this is how your geographical location works within New York, because New York is a different weather pattern. You can choose a location and you plant cannabis and it prosperous in vegetation life. Meaning it's bulky, it's green, it's nice, and it's luscious. But the moment the cycle change and you're going closer to the cold now, that location where you choose might be a basin with a whole heap of mountains around it. So what happens when you have a downpour of rain, all of those water drain underneath and mostly stay a while at that basement before it drains somewhere else. And when all of that water sit underneath there, it create too much moisture when you start to flower. When you start going to flowering, it doesn't want a lot of rain. And that's one of the advantage where a person who grow inside might claim same have. But the reason why might have it over outdoor person is because the outdoor person never choose him location well. So these are technicalities where you have to have up your belt. You have to solve all these problems and choose a location properly. So you choose a location. If the rain fall for 3 weeks straight and you're outside, you're not fretting, you're not worrying. Because as soon as that rain stop, that water will drains away from the soil. So it make the soil becomes loosey once more. The soil can breathe. It doesn't stagnate.
Is that the reason they plant up on the hills in Jamaica then?
That's why we always go on the mountain
I
tops.
got you.
That's why you always, there's time where you use the basins, Right? There's time where you go low in the valleys. Because in Jamaica, you plant the 12 months of the year. But, as I say, it's a discipline that you obtain through these practices, and it's also technical because you got to navigate. So in Jamaica, anywhere up away, anywhere within October, November, December, and January, you go in the valleys. You come off of the mountain top because the mountain top becomes real dry because you're not getting a lot of rainfall at that time. And the wind will blow in Jamaica at that time, they dry the soil very quickly. So you won't have that whole heap of moisture. Not that it won't grow up there, but you won't get the height you want. It's very short. So you go down in the valleys. So in those glades where you won't go in a spring, you go down in them glades because in them glades they have a way where it facilitates the dew water in the night. And those dew water give your plant the strength and energy it needs for where growing ability is concerned. So the same plant would grow this short on the mountain top. The same plant grow as tall as this in the valley, down in the glade. Because the glade creates so much moisture from the hot air in the day. And that moisture, when it releases in the night, it creates a whole heap of dew. The mountain top dry, but when you go deep in the glade, you're wet.
Many people chase the high from THC, right? You mentioned that as we get older, our body should be exposed to less THC, and that THC alone is not beneficial. Can you explain why herb without a balance of THC and CBD is not ideal to consume?
All right. Very good question. So in your early age, you want something for just bang your high, a heavy high. So you start out with all of these herbs will grow with the high THC and you just consume and pack the body at THC. But at this present moment, if you check the demography of the whole legalization process and how them consume in every state will legalize, the moment a person reach 45 and 50, what you think happen? Him can't manage that high anymore. Same of his scale back. Because during young stage, him consumes just his eager, his crave for THC the tolerance was so high. But now the body refuses, it pushes back because if him continue at the age of 45 and 50 with that high, him really are going to trouble. And him no want to stop smoke. He or she no want to stop smoke. So what them do? Them scale back. The demography show that, man. In terms of legalization, the legalization process is very important for people who, especially the one side and are observe. There's a lot of things to learn from it. There's a whole heap of changes that take place. If you're not carefully looking, you will never know, but it's there. So all of these persons who go into that older age have to scale back because the body can't manage it anymore. Some of them scale right back to CBD. Smoking CBD giant because them taking so much of that commercialized growing, just pushing THC alone. It's like the body can't hold it no more. You have to go back to balance. So if the body come back to balance, why not just eat balance from the beginning? Because balance is what really keep things on a high and positive note, And that's basically it. So I know that's why I don't worry about it. That's why I said the controversy about indoor and outdoor is just a waste of time for me. Because indoor not going anywhere. And outdoor is here to stay. Because outdoor is the foundation. Indoor is the data of outdoor. If you check it and go back thousands of years when the plant was here, really and truly, we're not even using the plant to its true potential right now because them tell her even the mummies them what them dig up them say them find cannabis when them do them research them find cannabis what them use as a part of the balming, the herbs for the balming. So if them they use it for that level at that time, thousands of years back, what we doing right now, we have legalization, what we do, we only consume it. So that for sure we're nowhere to that level in terms of how you utilize cannabis. We are stuck with sacramental, and sacramental is just consuming. Rather than you have topicals, where them create tinctures and topicals where you do applications from external, perspective. But we are nowhere there yet. And the reason why we are nowhere there yet, you got to understand from a business perspective, there's no way we're going to get legalization without a method of control. And we almost say that's one of the most important aspects too. That have to dealt with before you can get the privilege to get legalization. So that level that I just speak of, that's a higher level. If we reach that level, there's got to be some way of control before we can utilize in a different high level. It have to control, just like how consumption is controlled right now.
You've chosen to consume herb by eating it rather than smoking it, right? Can you explain why and what methods you use to prepare it?
It's my whole experience with cannabis. Start out smoke very early. At the age of 20, I realized that there was different way to consume. But this is what really happened, and this is what transpired at that age. At the age of 20, I was very health conscious, so I got to purchase all my herbal supplement them from a virgin known as Adwa Nutrition for Life in Montego Bay, St. James. But the herbal supplement, they were really expensive. And because they were so expensive, I couldn't purchase everything I want at once. And then when I do further studies, I realized that when you're smoking, when you smoke, you always have to be on a special diet. And it consists of fruits and veggies. And legumes, might fall within the line, because grains, there's a lot of grains that is essential as well. And you have multiple herbs where you use for different reasons: detox, rejuvenate, purification and all of that. So the herbs wasn't a problem for me that much, it was the supplement. And there's a lot of supplement that you have that is not available in Jamaica, but it's available in other places. So it have to come to Jamaica and sell.
Before you continue, can you speak about the importance of having a special diet if you smoke herb? Why is it so important to eat a certain way if you're smoking herb?
It's 100% important, because remember, if you eat cannabis, there's receptors within your mouth that sends it where it's supposed to go. When you smoke, your lungs play a very integral part in terms of your intake and your intake and your exhaust. When you're taking fresh oxygen, and when you let out, carbon. So there's always going to be a need of cleaning organs or keeping organs revitalized or strengthen organs where that is concerned, because it have to do with the blood. Always remember, cannabis have to do with the blood. So you don't want to put a lot of cannabis in your blood and not giving the blood the other vitals it need.
Balance it out.
Right. So that's why it's important to always have a healthy meal. Always have yourself on a specific diet as a smoker. And that was one of the things why I decided to chew at the age of 20, because some of these supplements that I really want, I couldn't facilitate or finance myself having them as regular as how I want. And then I observed that, chewing was also a method, but there's a principle behind chewing, because I got to cure those weed for like 2 years, 3 years before I eat them. So I eat it with like carrots, cashews, and the dry coconut. But at no time can you eat the amount of joint you smoke for the day. Because, you eat a small amount. If I smoke, I used to smoke even 30 joint a day, 32. Yeah, one pack of Whistler can hold life for the day. That's why I'm, as a youth, it's weird, because, a lot of people know me. It go seem so impossible. But to tell you the truth, when I start out smoke, it wasn't Whistler first, it wasn't rolling paper, it was brown paper. At that time, you could have got a shop and you buy, it was like 25 cents for your brown paper. So when you build a giant, then you talk about some big fat giants, and they used to have there was a oats in Jamaica known as Fasca oats. Any man who know Fasca oats back in days, there was a white paper that come with the Fasca oats. It was with, as a youth, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old, that was a present, man, and you buy a Fasca oats and get the bag. Because you get to build some big giants, and one giant like one, that was basically it for I,
So when did you reach those heights to understand? I'm mesmerized by the eating aspect now.
Mm-hmm.
When did you reach the heights? Because I see a lot. I remember when I was younger, my parents used to take me to reggae concerts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing people pass out because they was in there drinking roots and smoking herb, obviously on an empty stomach, and they weren't eating properly, right? When did you get when did you start to is that, you know what? I need to eat properly if I'm burning herb. Most people never get to that point.
As a youth, when a smoker, man, as a smoker giant, it always open the appetite, because THC is connected to the intestine. So you don't need a rocket science to know, so when you smoke, you have to have food. Every youth know that.
Proper food.
Proper food. No food where I go rest on your stomach or ride your stomach or, and then guess what? A country, man. So when you smoke a herb in your day, a country, you just boom, you eat a cane, you just boom, you drink a jelly, you eat a guava. It was abundant in terms of food for eat. And a good food. And a food where you go up on fire. So when you're there in the days and you smoke, you know the amount of things you have to eat. You have soursop, you have gooseberry, you have star apple, you have sugar cane, you have guava, you have jelly coconuts. You have so much things to eat. So you just bounce around like the bird and eat from the tree. So by the time you reach and sit on a pot and cook some food, you're properly fed. So when the food comes, the food where you cook now is just a top off. Just finish it up. So that's the difference. A youth were in the city, in the urban area smoking versus a youth were in the countryside smoking. So that's a big difference. Because the youth in the urban area probably not educated enough to know, say, watch this, him smoke at the fast food station, and them fast food, they will know what them fast food they do. So if you eat a lot of fast food and smoke a whole heap of herb, what you think will happen? Yeah. So the whole legalization process we're at right now, it does need persons that is well educated, or who can be persons that share a lot of insight where informative messages is concerned. And I'm a part of that. I try my own way of really make the message reach to youth and youth in terms of even the outdoor growing perspective. Meaning it's I'm not without a doubt. I can say without a doubt it's more healthier. It's a lower THC, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25%. Some genetics, there are genetics that I can get up to 28% from an outdoor perspective. Some genetics might shoot to 30, but sometimes I don't get back them genetics there. Cause this is how it works, As a person who do the outdoor too, there's person that we are learning, even the cultivar I learn as well. So, a man will show something on your face, you grow it and find out how it really works. Must get it back next year. Yeah. And you can't feel no way about that, because it's a business and everyone is within this framework of legal perspective just to earn and achieve. And I'm not a selfish person, and information is not something where you want to hold from the public. So even if a cultivar give me a genetics and say, you try this one, it's good, and next year him don't give me, I can't vex with him. Because he's in the world navigating. It's because he's navigating why him couldn't say, you know what, best, I'll make the rats plant it and see where it work. It's not everyone is navigating, man, because everyone want to make their dominance from a business perspective. And you got to understand that, because everyone have them bills to pay. Everyone have financial expenditure to facilitate. So, that's why I don't really like this whole nonsense, this controversy to indoor, outdoor, and proving point. It's two different growing principles, man. There's nothing to prove. And it's two different client base. There's a consumer who only want a heavy hit. And there's a consumer who, no, I just want balance. Because, balance work. This is how balance work. A lot of people don't understand. Running down high THC is useless. Because high THC facilitates to make you get a high, but it's really the third profile which shift your direction, And the third profile shift the direction and shift the mood, The THC don't do that, The THC only create that heaviness within terms of high. But the third profile play an integral role in terms of changing your direction.
Right.
Yeah. So you wake up in the morning, that's why you wake up in the morning, the company that I grow for, if someone asks me what is best, and narrow it down, you wake up in the morning, do your work? Yes. And we have several genetics that we grow. So guess what? A sativa is a nice start. Because a sativa, it's more energizing. So within the sativa dominant family, you choose a genetics that have a particular terp profile that matches that person complaint. So you're now prescribing, and that terp profile now, it gives him that he or she that energy he needs to start his day. Meaning keeping execute qualities where work ethics is concerned. Because you don't want to smoke weed and feel, if me smoke a giant and it make me feel claggy, something wrong. But me smoke a giant, me supposed to smoke a giant and say, yeah, me supposed to can recommend it for someone. And say, this is what me feel, or this is my take. So here I am. Test it and tell me, give me a feedback what you feel. It's most because it do something positive. And then for the midday now, a lunch break, say you want something to give you the appetite. And then in the afternoon now, work over. You want to reminisce. Where you want to reminisce upon? Your daily activity. So it facilitates an indica dominant, which is a heavier high. So after you do that whole, you reminisce upon the day. Because you go reminisce upon your daily activity, at work, you say, wow, could I do that much better, Yeah, I could have improved upon that. And yeah, so you reminisce. That's what cannabis does, And then now, after you reminisce for a while now, because that high so heavy, it put you straight to bed. Because at bedtime, you know what I mean? I say, yeah. Because when you light a giant, it slows the rotation of the brain down and it allows you to make a connection with your inner consciousness. It's what you use that connection to do. And that's how it works.
I heard you once say that nature is the greatest teacher, right? What is the greatest lesson nature has taught you about spirit, life, and the nature of man?
You're going to encounter with a lot of different variables in your whole journey. But those variables you encounter, the body have the ability to heal itself. That's the biggest lesson from nature. Everything about this temple that you have the ability to heal itself from a natural perspective. And that's the greatest thing about nature. It teaches you how to help yourself mentally, to heal your body physically, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, everywhere. That's what nature does. And the journey associating with nature, that's what it facilitates. Everything about nature is perfect. It's just we living beings is doing things that is imperfect or not in harmony with nature. So if you accept nature for what it is, then you're good. The rest is history. When you accept nature, you get a scratch, what happened? It bleed and stop and you don't put a band-aid and you don't go to the doctor, but it heal. Everything is within your body, Rather than from fatalities, you have serious fatalities where require a doctor, require surgery, require, we have no control over that because we live in a modern age where man and its power within thinking invent things that is very harmful to man, but yet it's a part of the necessity, like driving a car. First time it used to be a horse and a buggy. If it crash, you have a 50, you have a better chance of surviving versus now you drive a car at 100 down on the highway and it crash. So them think they're a fatality, So apart from all of those, nature in itself, man, is the greatest thing, man. Nature is the greatest teacher, man. For example, how I prove that? I never go to an institution of learning to know about cannabis, None. I just learned from the seniors who were there within my community and listen to all of the Rastafari them, from the Carol Gardner incident, from Rastafari elders in Scotch Park, Clarendon. They used to have Rasta in John's Hall, St. James, Pitford, Montego Bay. And King Emmanuel in Bobo Hill, 9 Mile, and he go back even to Backyard when there was no Tivoli Garden. Because we know the whole, we know the whole, I study and know the whole layout and the whole history of Rastafari movement, and the whole disintegrate. And, I can tell you all of the people that fight against Rasta Jew in administrative department in Jamaica, brutally. Rasta go through some brutal things, And it was the only thing them could have used to really accommodate or facilitate those brutality against Rasta was the same herb. That was the only thing them have within them position, because the herb was their spiritual sacrament. And every time Rastafari was attacked, the herb was put at the front. Because herb was what? A criminal activity if you have it in your position. So then, it's kind of sad that way. When we really meds and, how many times when I'm on meds upon the brutal atrocity we have done to Rastafari, grandmothers and grandfathers and mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, within this present Iowa, it bring all heap of pain same way. Because we see weed come legalized now, how the Rastafari community benefit from that. Nobody now touch them topic there.
Why do you think the Jamaican government historically has been so brutal and vicious towards the Rastafari movement?
Well, as a great grandson of Rastafari movement, I want to answer it in a most profound manner. If you have a group of persons that come about, and when they trace the lineage where they're from, without a doubt they're from Africa, and they organize and centralize themselves together, where self-reliant is concerned, and where tracing their lineage is concerned, And from all of that, doing all of that, them come about for asking for repatriation, and recompensation. Tell me how them wrong. How could you say them wrong? And that was those are the things that create, you know, bitterness within the mindset of those who were leaders at the time. For example, we could go deep. We gained independence in 1962. And from studying 1963, we get our first Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Right Honorable Sir Alexander Bustamante, which can be one of our national hero. Can't go against it. But what did he do? 1963 about, I think it's the 11th of April. What did he do? Okay. How did that align to Rasta? It have nothing to do with Rastafari, There were some, if you listen to the elders who experienced it and was there and them explain and tell you, there were a set of people that inherit that property from them ancestor. And because investor come from United States of America or any foreign country and want those land, problem create. Them want this dislocate them. And those men weren't Rasta. Then at them time, it was privileged for a man just Afro and grew up in Bay. They call them roots man. Those were the people who had a problem with the land, But at the time, because Rastafari movement was so profound in terms of what they're agitating for, Bustamante at the time see it fit to use that scenario to eradicate Rastafari. So brutal, barbaric, And it disintegrates Rasta until this day. Until this day, the impact is still there. I need someone tell me say no, because I don't need a rocket science. I'm a well intellect within myself. If you know say it's there same way. You know how much time I've been discriminated against my own brothers and sisters from Jamaica. In a Jamaica, I tell you what, in a Jamaica, it's privileged for a man look at me and say, sure, dirty head Rasta boy. But when I man migrate 2019 and come to the United States of America and come run into some of my same brothers and sisters from Jamaica and hear that, you know how disturbing that is. It goes to show how society teach the citizens of Jamaica how not to accept Rastafari. So that effect is still here. It might not be showing itself in, bright colors, but it's here. There's a lot of people of my brothers and sisters, I'm a nationality in Jamaica, that still have that bitterness against Rastafari. Not to fight, or not to do you anything, but the words that describe you. And those same persons, Rastafari is the most kindest person to them. But that goes to show you how society instill or educate them well against not accepting Rastafari as part of society. If you go to Jamaica right now, you never see a man like me in the bank, You not see a man like me in the tax office. You not see a man like me in certain, even at the school. You go to Jamaica and see a Rasta man just like me with and look like me. With a R, with a Rasta bead in the classroom teach. You're crazy. What I tell you? We're far from being accepted to that level. But yet, everywhere in the world, people want to visit Jamaica because of what? Rastafari. Everyone want to go to the country where Bob Marley come from. Everywhere you go and you see Bob Marley, what you see? You see Bob Marley, that big spliff. Check it. Everyone just need to pause for a minute and just look. Rastafari is left on their own, man. We have some brothers and sisters who do wonderful job. Because to be truthful, I'm gonna have Anna, Muta, Miguel, Kabu with Running Africa. All of these programs are programs where it helped me a lot. To bring the brothers them from Africa, to bring the story from Africa and the Running Africa program. All of these programs, the cutting edge, all these programs, all these brothers and sisters, them do a wonderful job. And that's what helped for the younger generation, the fuel, both from a feminine and a masculine, that really hold firm to the roots and the culture and hold firm to the discipline of Rastafari. I could almost tell you, apart from the music, these brothers and sisters, are these fathers and mothers. They do a wonderful job, man. Muta Baruka do a wonderful job. Miguel Land do a wonderful job. Marty Moplana do a wonderful job. All of these, Kabu, the Running Africa program, do a wonderful job. You have a whole heap of disc jockey that work the radio station that really carry out some certain programs, do a wonderful job. Same way, all the people, all of the persons in Jamaica who know themselves have always been advocate for Rastafari. Even if them don't have unlocks, them do a wonderful job because there's a lot of person who advocate for Rastafari in Jamaica who don't have unlocks. Because it's a way of life. The locks is the identification. And when we say, if them did give Rasta the opportunity them need in Jamaica, we don't have this thing in Jamaica we have right now because where discipline is concerned, Jamaica, it's terrible, man. The youth them last.
Do you think the world is aware of the persecution Rastafari experienced in Jamaica?
To an extent, the conscious people all over the world know. And conscious people always be a small amount. So I wouldn't say the world don't know. Everywhere in every corner you go in the earth right now, there's someone who can relate to that atrocity. So it's a small amount of people, but they are the conscious ones.
When your grandmother was in her 70s, right?
Yeah.
She became very sick, and doctors said she would not live much longer, right?
Yeah.
You took the responsibility of caring for her, providing natural herbs, love, and attention, and she lived until 90. What lessons did you learn from taking care of your grandmother?
Good question. Well, first and foremost, and may her soul rest in peace, she's like the foundation or the backbone for everything that I am right now. Everything really started with her. I get the opportunity to be around her from the age of 1, and ever since I was around her, it was just consciousness within consciousness. It's really a warm-hearted thing to talk about in terms of saving her or giving her more energy or giving her more strength or more life. It never something that I set out knowing that I could accomplish it, but I give it a try. It was good. Everything was perfect within perfection. At the age of 70, she have a heart and a kidney failure. And I see it was really stressful in terms of financial support, Not that it wasn't there, but, wondering if it will really help or it will really save her. Or, what was the outcome? I was wondering what was the outcome, what the outcome would be like. Just have her taking pharmaceutical drugs and watch her suffering pain and knowing that I'm as a herbalist, I know the strength and power of herbs, and I also know the power within foods and how food can reverse certain disorders. So I went to the doctor and asked. At the time it was Dr. Steven Black River. I don't know if he's still practicing right now. That was the family doctor at the time. And I suggest a few things. I said, I can help her. And he said, you got to make sure everything is updated with our pharmaceutical drugs or doctor prescriptions. And she was taking a lot of medication at the time. She was taking something for her ears, her nostril. She was taking a tablet for her kidney so she could reduce down and not get swelling, like urinate very often. And then she was using an next tablet for her heart. But there was 2 powerful herbs within my position at the time, which was sarsaparilla. And sarsaparilla, I can proudly say my grandma have a root of sarsaparilla, and it have a way it's seeded, and I keep adding to that one root until I have several roots. So I come see my grandma with sarsaparilla, do my research on sarsaparilla, do a whole heap of readings, and I realized that it was a powerful herb. It's a herb that really purified the blood. And, I know I could use it, so I asked permission, and I was given the permission at the time. At that time, every 2 months, she got to go to the doctor to make sure she get her checkup, and it was really tough watching everything that happened. She keeps swelling, and if she don't take those tablets, she will never reduce. So she couldn't move, she couldn't walk, and all of that, just lying on her bed. And I apply sarsaparilla as an infusion, like make a gallon jug, and every time she asks for water, I'd give her sarsaparilla water to drink. And at nights when it reaches 6, I apply the corn silk. A lot of people just like eat the corn and just throw away the trash and throw away the silk. Which the corn silk, which is that hair and the corn that lie on there, it have powerful, powerful medicine within. So I use the corn silk every 6 o'clock to give her a warm cup of tea of the corn silk. But what it does, it allows her to urinate very frequently throughout the night. So it was detoxing or cleansing the kidney. And those were the two major herbs I used. And I also reverse her eating habit in terms of stopping her from eating flesh. At that time she didn't have any teeth, so she have dentures at the top and the bottom, so she couldn't really chew flesh. So it was useless giving her flesh because she would just dabble it around and suck the juice from it, which was oil. And I'm a Rastafari, I didn't prepare flesh, but to be honest, everything my grandmother want, I gotta get it for her. And the thing about it, she was blind. So if she drink a cup of dirty water, it's on my shoulder. Everything gotta be very clean, sanitized. I gotta use my eyes for her eyes, and that's what it was. And she ended up live for 20 years. She died at the age of 90 with all her faculties intact on the 1st of September, 2007. That's the year my first son was born as well.
And what life lessons did you learn from taking care of it?
Listen, if I could do it once more, I'd do it again. Within this modern age, I don't think a lot of youth really appreciate the fact that the elders, the ancestors, are the living parents who cut and pave the way for us. I don't think they appreciate them that much. The reason why I say this, if you check the modern age at this point in time, no one really meditate on it that much, but a lot of people have huge amount of money or can afford to take care of their people by just putting them in our home. I don't think it's appropriate from past time. The whole authenticness of elderly people, our living ancestors, was always to pass on back that love. You care for them, you make sure they're clean, they're fed, and you sit with them, you talk with them, and also learn from them because they are the one that have the knowledge. They are the one that have that whole aspect of where things is coming from and how we're going to project ourselves to a bright and prosperous future. It really lies with them. They were here long before us. They are the one that paved the way. They are the one that can share things that can help you to create a better future or a brighter path. I don't think it's a big thing to the younger generation right now. Everyone just want to push their mom, their dad, their grandma, their granddad into a home. And that's really shorten their life. It shortens their comfort. It deteriorates everything for them. They might not say it. It's a wonderful care, don't get me wrong. They're accommodated with good doctors. Um, everything is good. But there's something that is not good, which is the comfort from within, or the comfort within their own space, or the comfort of being taken care of someone that they have passed it on to and looking for those person to pass it on back to them. That's the cycle. That's how the whole cycle. That's a love cycle. That's a cycle of that's the African greatness. That's something that exists within us as Africans. The young ones are always supposed to create means and ways physically, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually to give that care or that well-being to those people who have paved the ways before us. That's one of the most wonderful ways to contribute to living ancestors. I don't really like use the word old people because anything old I really throw it in a garbage pan. They are living ancestors. I honor every one of them. I crown them, I learn from them, and it's just make my life more bright and more prosperous in terms of my mental, in terms of how I think, in terms of even projecting my everyday life as I step forward. So if I could do it for her once more, I'll do it again. At the age of 87 was when things deteriorate between I and her, because she got to wear pampers. And I got to change 6 pampers per day. And I got to do that with these 10 fingers. And if I get visitors, because she get visitors very frequently because she was an active church member within the Moravian church in the community. So the minister from the Moravian church, all her church sisters, they even come and give her communion on her sick bed because she decided she wanted it. I'm a Rastafari. I just backed up and leave them because it's all about her comfort and what makes her comfortable, and I want to keep her as long as ever with I, even though it put her in such a, a tough situation. And and at that time, it was just spiritual doing what I do. It was very motivating. I didn't see the hardship of it because of the love doing it. It's wonderful, man. It's something that everyone within the community and out of the community, everyone that knows, even a lot of people in the state, New York and all over from the community, they always speak about it. That's the first thing someone used to remember I call I whenever I'm in encounter with anyone from the community. They always speak highly about, the way I care for my grandma. She had me from the age of one thing, so I think I was entitled to. Yeah. And it's everything to I. I keep it very close within until this present moment.
Were your parents in Jamaica or they went abroad?
That's a good question. Well, my dad died a year, 2 years back now. I got to do the same thing for my dad as I did for my mom, for my grandma. My parents was alive, it's really sad. And my mom know me love her. The only thing that disintegrate you from your mom is the fact that the umbilical cord is cut. But you will never be separated from your mom spiritually. Might be physically, psychologically, you can't. And how I know that is, I do 34 years without my mom in my life. My dad, I know he was there. I visit him. My dad was like, my dad like a hardcore in the ghetto, in the city. Him living in Maxwell for almost 40 odd years. When I was migrating 2019 to America, I moved him from that inner city that he was, because coming to America, I know it's going to be very difficult to really give him the care that I really want to give him. So I put him not in such a tough inner city, but I move him from one to another. I move him to Mountain View. It wasn't the heights where I would have want him to be, but that was where was available at the time. And then I got to move him again and send him down to Westmoreland, because the chemistry, the cosmic about it, about the whole thing. My father leave Westmoreland at the age of 1. And I go to Westmoreland at the age of 1. I get disintegrated from my mom at the age of 1. I don't know how it works because I hear many stories towards it, and I don't want to follow up the story, the fact that I reunite with my mom in a physical, and I appreciate the fact that I'm around her and she's here and I can call her, and just the fact that I have a mother alive, it means a lot to her. It speaks volume. So I'm catching up on all those things that I didn't get as a youth. But I get it from a mother perspective, but I get it from my grandma, which she played the role of a mother, a father, a grandma, a grandfather. It was wonderful, man. Growing up with her was very great. It was very nice. People call it poverty. Some call it poor. For me, as a person who grew up and mature in mind and spirit, I don't call it any of those words. It was just that she teach me how to utilize what was there, which is a part of the necessity that life require. So she couldn't provide the big beef or the big mutton and these things, but she teach me how to accept life and appreciate what we have and utilize what we have until we can create our, or we can move forward in life and provide. Right. So that's where cannabis came in for, because it always bugged my mind, how can I take at that time, you're not mature, so at that time you're looking at it as poverty, or you're looking at it as poor. But the more you grow is the more you gradually gain insights, and you gain more greater knowledge to realize that it wasn't any of these. A person can provide beef or chicken on his table, and we can provide some greens, or some tomatoes, some cucumbers, or simple things, some green banana. It doesn't mean that that person is poor. That's what you have. And you teach yourself to accept what you have and utilize what you have until you're in the position where you can afford something else or you can add to what you already have. You know, and that I'm so happy growing up with my grandma because these things were instilled from a very tender age. As I say, people call it poor. I myself at that time was looking at it from that perspective, but it was really a healthy life.
I spoke to Luciana, right? And we were speaking about the moral decay of Jamaica, right? My grandmother, she just passed, bless her soul. She always used to tell me about in her early days in regards to strangers coming to the house and feeding them, or even if a man used to come through the district with like goats and he would just sleep there, nobody would bother him, nobody would bother his goats. When did the morality of Jamaica change?
Yeah.
Collective.
When I really look, when I dig, it's a good question, But when things start really decline, I was saying from in the 80s and based on how I see things change. Listen, we you know what answer it and answer it the wrong way because you said this thing this minute, but when you go back and look, you're still not perfect. I'm gonna tell you this. Things change from day one when them not accept Rastafari in Jamaica. Because how can a man who become the first prime minister of Jamaica carry out such a brutal, barbaric atrocity and against an indigenous
people.
group of people,
Yeah,
your own people? You become the prime minister in 1963 independent, 1962 independent, 1963 you become the first prime minister of Jamaica, and that was the only thing you see where you could have attacked. Everything changed right there. So the fact that the most disciplined, principled, moral, those people who are on the highest standard in terms of family structure, self-reliant, community, togetherness, advocating for repatriation, reparation, and recompensation, which we know that cause some problem. You feel carry out such a barbaric atrocity against people like that, that it mean no harm or no threat to society. Everything change right there, so. Until from them time, because even from when that happened, all the rest of Rasta that survive that atrocity, how them live, them not change. Them live the very same way. It's just that they were disintegrate from their various communities and spread all about now, and some have to take the hills. So when them go in at the hills, the youth them in the community not exposed to that liberty no more.
Daily and see that again.
Them not see it. So when them do see it once a while, it coming like a mockery. Because them have to take the hills. So them pushes the discipline away. Isolate the discipline away from society. It's most because they want to integrate something else. Why you do that? So everything change from right there, so. So a youth will come and do the history of them things that what you think him go discover. Them never want the principled people them to be a part of society. Because if the Rasta man say peace and love, that's all him do. Him not only say it, him live it. That's what him live every day. I catch a little part of the goodness of life, Kind of my community as a youth growing up in my early teen and from early. All of the youth them when I run up and down within this community, Any yard you catch every youth eat. So I catch some of that time as well. It might change in such a big dramatic way right now where it left you amazed when you see what take place right now. Crime and violence. And yet life better. And back in my time, you could have barely find money to buy a pair of shoes, but everybody did nice and happy. You have 2 pants and you make yourself happy, 2 shirts. You don't have the abundance where you have now in this modern era. But every man did happy and a smile. Play cricket together. You cook a pot together. You go school together. You go work together. Everything you do together. If it's 100 hosts upon the lane and 20 youth get up to any one of the hosts dinner time find you. Here eat dinner. That yard, that mother, that father for that yard and make sure every youth eat. That's how we grow. I cannot give thanks, Here in America now, I live in America now permanently. I give thanks, because in my community, the only thing I youth, always I take care of youth. And you can say me have a company today where can testimony to that. We not rush youth, man. We instill discipline in youth and teach youth and help youth in whatsoever way we can. That kind of dead out and gone now. Because if you even try to help a youth who belongs to an experience in this modern age, probably the daddy will come shoot you, they're going to say if you left him youth. Or the mother will come war you. Serious thing. You can't say a youth do nothing wrong out the street and correct him anymore. It might take a village to grow a child, And we are Africans, eating our DNA with blood. That's how Africans live. In our community, you don't have no special mother. Every child is a mother's child. That gone. They moving the physics from the curriculum. It really creates some problem too, because physics teach you the basic discipline and principles of life. The moral really get low. The standard gone really low, and it all begins within the home thing, Because, them say children have children, but I don't think of that. And them say poverty breed crime, I don't think of that. Because you don't grow up poverty like I grew up in a poverty. It's just that I'm mature now at this gesture, I know it wasn't poverty. And that I never ever in my life affiliate myself with anything where crime is concerned or any criminal activity. But I always have ganja in my position. As a youth. That's what I live all my life, Jamaica, man. Really and truly, if my mom go and get a chance to see this, I know she go smile, because 2010, 2011, my mom come to Jamaica and I said, no, sir. That's how I come to America, It's like, say, that ganja thing, I have to get you out. Him say, no, I don't want this for you. And little did she know she can come right over here, come put me right back in. So I realize it's my destiny. And, wherever it lead, I can't really predict it right now. But him know, once I encounter with the plant, I'm just take care of that plant to the best of my ability. Because every time I touch each and every one of those plants, I tell myself, say, I grow some medicine to help someone out there. So I don't really grow THC. I don't grow CBD. I don't grow CBG. I don't grow CBN. I don't grow none of them properties that people are crave over. I want to grow some medicine, and medicine is balance. So everyone that consume whichever way you want to consume, whether by a topical, a tincture, a edibles, any way you want to consume. If you want rosin, you want diamond, anything come from the plant, any byproduct that come from the plant that I grow, I man know say I grow some medicine. So I'm gonna grow it with the love to create medicine. It's really hard to tell one, explain it to one, because the connection I have with the plant, I don't know how to teach one. As I say, I never go to an institution of learning. So every time someone say, I want you to teach me how to do, it's really hard, because guess why it's hard now? Something where I go learn, I tap into high consciousness deep within. I find it from within. That's something that manifests itself from within, The love for the plant manifests from within, and that love gives me the capability from a tender age to connect with the plant. So I can look at if it's 100 plants here, I can look at every one of them individually and understand it. I have a clear insight. No, say this one is structured this way. Because if you buy 1,000 seeds from one genetics, every single tree within that genetics have its own appeal. If I have 10 different locations in the one geographical location, 10 different acreage within the one geographical location and plant with one genetics, what do you think will happen? Every 10 field going to give you 10 different terp profile. What do you think when a cultivar sell you some genetics and you grow it and him say, even if you want to do a pheno hunt, what that mean? Everything is not the same. So when you do a pheno hunt, if you have an acre and you have 1,000 plants in the acre, all the trees is not the same. So that pheno hunt now, you show him a specific tree that you would want, everything to look alike, and he design it that way for you from a cultivar perspective. I know work it so. I keep everything in their own unique form. So if it's 1,000 plant, every 1,000 plant have its own appeal. So if I go to ventilate one, I have to ventilate it according to how it structure itself. So every plant you move to take care of, it requires a different method of caring. You know? So how you teach something like that to someone? You got to be at peace with your own self. And when you be at peace with yourself, you make that connection with your inner consciousness. Everything comes from within, man. Everything is there within you. It's just you to tap into that consciousness and find it. I can't help I want to do that. Because where earth reach right now, it's really self-save judgment. You can't save no one. Everyone have to try, feel, find the ability to save themselves. You know? It's really serious. Serious. It's a serious situation.